The Country Underdog Podcast.
So, let's see. Tell me a little bit about you and where you're from, man.
Yeah, so my name is Colby Acuff. I'm from Idaho, northern Idaho to be specific. I started playing music when I was about 5 years old. I played my first bar when I was 11, and I've been gigging live now for 12 or 13 years. And yeah, I just released my first album a little over a year ago, and I released my second album about 2 months ago.
Yeah. If I Were the Devil, that's really the first album that I started listening to you on. I haven't really listened to very much of Life of a Rolling Stone, but I hope to get into it here shortly. I mean, I have to listen to so much music. It is insane. I mean, I listen
Well,
to
dude,
probably...
I understand. I mean, for me, it's like, most people haven't heard of us until If I Were the Devil came out. So that's like a lot of people's, first interaction with us, which is, great. I mean, I'm super about it. The first album is a little bit more broken down. It doesn't have as many elements, so it's a little bit more singer-songwriter-ish, And then the second album, we added drums and a bunch of other things just to make it a little bit more mature.
Okay. Well, I mean, a lot of people like those more acoustic sounding albums, and it's cool to kind of get to do different stuff as your career goes on. I mean, take a look at like Sturgill Simpson.
He's my favorite. Yeah.
You go back and listen to his music in 2013 compared to what he just put out the past 2 years, and even his music the past 2 years sounds completely different.
Yeah, so Sturgill is kind of my he's my favorite all time, basically. Everything that he does, I really respect how he handles his business. And so when it comes down to it, I don't record songs necessarily for the radio or for like, anything other than me and fans. Like, I just want to put out stuff that is mine. I want to put out stuff that has extremely raw and true and like very honest songs. And I think that does get conveyed to people. And I think that's why, so like right now, my next project, this will actually be one of the first podcasts I think I've talked about it on, but I will be, I'm working on a honky tonk album right now. And once I get that going, I'm probably going to release something else that's a little bit more acoustic. So I have 2 projects in the works right now.
Okay, that's pretty sweet. A little honky tonk album. So, yeah. So you said you're from where again?
I'm from Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, is the town that I'm from. So I'm like 2 hours south of the Canadian border.
Woo! See,
yeah.
Like I thought for a moment that you were Canadian. I mean, you're kind of up there, similar sounding music to Coulter Wall in a way. I don't know.
Yeah.
That same kind of look. I don't know why I thought that, but
I'm pretty close.
You're pretty close.
But no, still in the States,
So, I mean, one of the things I try to do with Country Underdog is that Texas, Nashville gets so much of the attention. And even though I'm in Texas, I try to kind of just cover everybody. I mean, the Carolinas, Appalachian, like all that stuff that don't really have that hub to kind of push them out there. And there's so many other pages out there that are promoting mainstream country, Texas, and just there's Texas music pickers. They only do like Texas and Oklahoma, and they release their chart and all that stuff. But I try and be as unbiased as possible. And so that way I get to really enjoy and talk about the music that I like to listen to, and real artists, like real artists just from across the country, real underdogs in a way. And we're all underdogs. Everyone's been underdogs before.
Right.
But I I think that it embodies just kind of country music in general. That everyone kind of starts out at the bottom, and writing songs from the heart and being authentic is what it's all about.
Oh, I agree, man, completely. And I think, that being said too, about like the hubs and stuff, I'm extremely fortunate and extremely grateful that we've done what we've done so far just out of Idaho. You know what I mean? Like, this last album has caught a decent amount of traction and I'm super excited, but I actually, I will be coming to Texas in June.
Really? When
Yeah.
is that? So June, where are you going to be at?
So as of right now, we're still working on dates. I don't really want to say anything as far as, shows and whatnot, but I will be in Texas June 2nd through like the 22nd. So
All right.
I'll be throughout the whole state pretty much, just anywhere and everywhere.
Okay. Well, I'm in East Texas, and that's where our office is. So you got to come by and hang out a little bit. We got couches. I got the in-person podcast set up as well that we can do. We can do this again, round 2.
I would love to. I'd be super down. I'll come see you. I'll hit you up on Instagram and we can figure out the details because I'll have some downtime as well, and we'll just be looking to travel. So that'd be perfect.
Yeah, for sure. One thing that I'm trying to do is, within the next 2 or 3 years, is open up some kind of big studio out here with a stage where artists can come by whenever they're in between tour dates and all that stuff, perform for small live studio audience or just for YouTube, and we can create some cool videos. We can sit down, podcast, drink, whatever.
I like this, man. Let's do this in June. I'm down.
For sure, we will. So let's see. What can you tell me? Tell me a little bit more about Life of a Rolling Stone.
Okay, yeah. So let's just get right into it. So we were playing just in Idaho, just me and my bass player, and we've been playing for about a year and some change, maybe 2 years at this point. And we were doing real well. We were playing a ton, but my bass player was like, "Man, I just really want to go on a tour. I think that'd be so much fun." I said, "You know what? That sounds like a great time." This is October of 2019. So I said, "Well, I'm not going to go on tour unless we have an album." So, we decided to cut an album, and within 2 months we released Life of Rolling Stone, and we had a full tour planned. But, then COVID happened and canceled everything. So that kind of put a damper on our first album, but that gave me a ton of time to get ready for the second one. We doubled staff, we doubled down basically on the business and cut If I Were the Devil and dropped it in February.
So you've done pretty well on TikTok. Did you do very much promoting of Life of Rolling Stone on TikTok, or was that a little bit before TikTok kind of took off?
Yeah, TikTok was barely, if it was around, I didn't know about it. Like, I had no idea that it was there in 2019. All good. I had no idea it was there in 2019, basically. So I didn't promote it. I just promoted it on Instagram pretty much and Facebook. But TikTok changed my second album for sure. TikTok might have, I could maybe give a ton of credit to TikTok for starting this career really within under 24 months.
Yeah, for sure. And so there's this weird thing going around that, there's country artists who have adapted to TikTok, and then there's TikTok country artists that have never performed a show, stuff like that they just start singing on TikTok and they start building a following, and that allows them to release music and all that stuff. And that has a weird stigma behind it. But I think that you are already somewhat established. Whenever I came across you on TikTok and stuff like that. But I don't consider you a TikTok country artist. I consider you an artist. And I think a lot has to do with the look behind it. You got this 615 house or whatever that's in Nashville.
Yeah.
Where they're just churning out content after content, lip singing over their own songs and all that stuff.
I think
the
algorithm.
Biggest,
yeah. I think the biggest thing is for me, I will never, ever throw judgment to anyone on how they make it ever.
Right.
It's just once you make it, what are you going to do? Because that's when it starts. You know what I mean? That's like when everyone's looking at you. And that is when you become more of an icon versus you're just more than an artist.
Right.
And I think you should always hold yourself, obviously, like to a standard. But once you got, millions of people looking at you, that's when it's like, okay, now it's time to not be an ass. And, like, to me, that's at least my thing. However you make it, though, overnight or over 10 years or however it is, don't bother me. Like, that's
right. And I agree with that. But I think part of it is the part that I have a problem with is you gain this following overnight, and then you feel obligated to continue feeding them what they want to hear, instead of being like authentic to yourself and stuff like that. I don't know. There's a fine line that you have to walk.
Yeah, no, I agree. I actually just did an interview with Americana Highway, and they asked me about Dear Country Music, which is on If I Were the Devil. I don't know if you've heard that song yet or not, but yeah, that song seems to be pushing some buttons with some people, and I never intended it to be that way. That song is strictly about the industry, and it has nothing to do with artists.
Right.
Because to me, like, music is obviously it's a creative field. Like, it's institutionalized to a point now where people who have the ability to turn emotion into a story, into a song, can get maybe a little bit, like, if you're a great songwriter, but you're just being used to write what the people in the suits want to hear, like, you do that as a career, how are you going to feel like you've really accomplished a bunch when you are such a better, like, you're performing undervalue?
Right.
And so for me, that's what that song's about. That song is just about the institutionalization of the music industry. It has nothing to do with artists, for me.
Okay. Yeah. And I think it is definitely the music industry. The people in the suits should take more of the blame, because these artists, I mean, they just have a dream, and they're just trying to make it, but sometimes they get taken advantage of, and they might not even know it.
Oh yeah, but the other problem is with it is it's a real fine line when you're in this industry and you're a musician and you're doing that stuff. Like, it is a fine line between being broke and being a millionaire. You know what I mean? And when the guys in the suits give you that deal, it's pretty hard to turn it down,
Yeah. I mean, I have a thing that I say on almost every podcast. I don't know how it comes up, but if I was in the money business, I wouldn't be in the music business. Right. Or at least this music business, because when it comes to music, like actual music, there's not a ton of money behind it. When it comes to all these record labels putting out all this fabricated crap, sometimes they do put out good stuff, and I do listen to some of it, some of the mainstream stuff, but when it comes to real authentic music stuff that I consider like great, there's just not a ton of money behind it, and part of it is Spotify streams and Apple. They don't pay crap. I mean, what's it 0.0048 cents or something like that on Spotify?
Yeah, it just keeps going down. When I started, it was 7.007. Now it's like, somewhere around 5 or 6.
And you take that and split it up between the writers and whatnot, and it's just like minuscule. So that's why, like, buying merch is so important, and
Agreed.
And all that, and live shows, which were taken away.
And that was the only thing, to me, of course. Well, if you want to find, as an artist too, it's like every day you wake up and you're like, okay, how are we going to do it today? Every day is just another puzzle on how you're going to figure this out. But for me, I look at everything. I had to start looking at everything positively, because I just felt like it was getting to be a lot to bear when I couldn't figure out how to make things work because I was being negative and stuff. So I started looking at it this way. as soon as I changed my attitude, that's also when I saw things start changing for us as well. You know, it's like Spotify. Everyone has this huge gripe with Spotify and Apple Music and how they pay nothing. And I get that. I agree. Like, for what it is, it's not great. But that being said, Spotify specifically distributes your music. And if it wasn't for Spotify, a guy like me would be nowhere. I would be absolutely nowhere. They push my music for me if it does well. So like it gives me incentive to push the songs, and then they distribute my music as well. So like it gives you an opportunity as an unsigned artist to be authentic and not have to have a record label and still build a fan base.
Right. Right. Which, I mean, I love that perspective. I mean, so much of the music industry, there's so much like pros and cons, and it's just like it is what it is. And the is what it is that you just have to work hard and
Right.
put out real music, because at the end of the day, people gravitate to realness. People can sense what is real, whether someone's singing about a real life event. If someone's just putting out songs about trucks and beer and all that, people are kind of over that. People gravitate towards sometimes the sad stuff, the real stories, the breakups, and all that stuff. The stuff that they can connect to.
Right.
So that with all the pros and cons in the music business, people just want to connect with music. And if a record label can put out stuff that people can connect to, good for them. If independent artists can put out stuff that people can connect to, awesome. If independent artists are just putting out crap trying to fit in and stuff that isn't really true to them, fans are going to know, or like listeners are going to know, and vice versa. So
it's the old. Have you ever seen like Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid?
I have not.
It's an older film, but there's a scene where I think it is Butch Cassidy. He says he's like, "Man, I got a vision, and everyone else is wearing bifocals."
Huh.
You know, and it's just the classic like. Or he says, it's something along the lines of that. Like basically he's got a vision and he's the only one that can see it.
Right.
And so when I started in this business, it was so daunting. I was just a boy from Idaho trying to go on a tour, which then turned into our first album had enough recognition to where it was like, okay, now we have a fan base. Now we're doing it. And here we go. And it was great. Like I'm super grateful for that. You know, that's why we're here. But that being said, the business got actually less daunting as we went, because I realized that, yes, the market is very saturated. There's a ton of people that can write songs out there, but I don't think there's that many people out there that can write a song that they believe in.
Yes, exactly. And you have a really good head on your shoulder when it comes to all this. Like, like, how old are you?
I'm 24.
Okay, I'm 23, and you don't come across. I mean, the last podcast that I did was with Bailey Ray. I mean, she was 17 when she went on The Voice, and I knew about her before she went on The Voice, and yeah, she took that route. A lot of people talk crap about the singing shows and all that stuff, but people take the avenues that are given to them. Whatever doors are open. You can choose to not take certain doors and say F you, kind of like some people have in the past in the Texas scene when it comes to Nashville. And but like Aaron Watson. Aaron Watson is a massive inspiration behind Country Underdog and getting me into all of this music. I mean, he had the number one independent album, or the first number one independent album ever to go number one on iTunes and Billboard, called The Underdog.
Right. And he's got, dude, I love his stuff too, by the way. I was just going to say, Like, yeah, I'm there with you.
Like just his story about how the record labels told him no. They basically closed that door on him, so he had to take a different route. And when that door opened back up, whenever they realized how good he was and that he had a fan base, he was like, "F you."
Then he wrote Fence Post.
Right, Fence Post. There you go.
Yeah.
But like, not everyone has that experience, or they might. Like, I think Bailey, she tried out for American Idol, and they said no. So that door kind of closed, but The Voice opened its doors, and she took it and ran with it. I had heard of her before, just a little Oklahoma girl,
Right.
17, just putting out music, all that stuff, and it's really cool to see people take advantage of the opportunities that they're given and have a good head on their shoulders while they do it. I mean, like I said, she was 17.
Well, yeah, I was just saying, like, most people don't see opportunity when it knocks.
Mm-hmm.
And your ego and your pride will kill you in this business way faster than what you think a fan might think because you did something. That is just a crock. Like, it just does not exist. And the people that think like that are typically the people that usually get stuck in a rut. So, like, if opportunity knocks, you got to take that, because you're not going to be given a whole lot in this business. And you don't, like, it's just the way it is. But that being said, like, when I went going back, when I said, okay, let's put this album together, this is, we're going to do Life of a Rolling Stone. I was a fly fishing guide on the Coeur d'Alene River, and my buddy was having a bachelor party up on the river. So I had just gotten off. I didn't know if I was going to make it because I was on these guide trips. And anyway, I ended up saying, you know what, screw it, I'll go to this bachelor party, it'll be fun. So I show up there, and I just look like hell because I've been guiding on a river for 3 days, but it was fun. And I was kind of talking like, yeah, I think I'm going to go into the music business and start to do an album. And the guy who, my buddy who was getting married for the bachelor party, he's like, oh, well, my buddy's coming up from Boise, and he's a producer. I go, oh, no shit. So, we sit down and start talking with him, and I'll never forget, we're sitting by the fire. I'm definitely pretty loaded at this point. And I'm talking to this producer, and I'm telling this producer like what I want to do. I'm like, I think that there's a serious opening that's going to happen in the next 2 to 5 years, because of Sturgill Simpson and Tyler Childers and Coulter Wall. They're like opening this door for what I want to do, like the music that I want to play and the songs that I write. And I didn't know if there was ever going to be that opening, and here it is. And I'm like, blah, blah, blah. He said, well, do you plan on getting a record deal? I said, I plan on doing whatever it takes to get us to where I want to go and keep my, like, the authentic part of it. And if that means I have to do it without a record label, I will, if we get a shot and it's the right deal, whatever. And he said, well, Tyler Childers is 1 in a million. And I said, well, it's about to be 2 in 1 million. Just because, I mean, you can't say that. You just can't go into it thinking that you lost. I mean, when's the last time anyone ever won any sporting event or anything just saying, well, we're going to lose?
Right.
Like, you just have to have, and we definitely haven't even won yet. Like, you know what I mean? Like, just, we've had some minor success, and it's put us here, which just gives us another opportunity to go to the next place.
You just have to be happy with who you are and what you're doing, while also staying hungry for more and keeping your eyes open for opportunity that comes your way. And did you play many sports growing up?
I did, but I stopped in high school pretty much because I just wasn't that athletic. That was the whole thing. I could throw baseball pretty hard, but then I tore my shoulder, so then it was pretty much over. And I was always pretty good at music, and that's when I started playing full time. And I started just digging into the money side of it and start, making it a business. So I started that when I played my first gig when I was 11 or 12. And then I really started playing hard when I was 13, 14.
Okay. Yeah. But you at least had somewhat of a sports background. And I think being a part of a team and the things that sports teach you is invaluable to, like, it's super valuable for the rest of your life. I mean, I played 17 years of baseball. 2 years in college, and then I ran track for 2 years in college, and
Damn.
both of those experiences taught me so much. And I knew I wasn't gonna make it to the MLB. I knew I wasn't going to go to the Olympics for track and all that stuff. But it's about taking the lessons from what you're doing and applying them to other things in life. And so that's
Right.
what I've tried to do with business. I mean, I grew up loving music, never having the time to play music because of sports. So I really just fell into like, hey, business is what I want to do. Business is what I can do. And that's allowed me to do what I'm doing now. With you, your experiences, some doors closed and it opened other ones. The sports doors closed earlier and opened up the opportunity for you to spend that time on music and all that stuff.
Yeah, one of the hardest decisions that I made. Well, I was very business oriented, like extremely. I got my real estate license at 19 and started selling real estate in my hometown while I was going to college, and I was going to be a stockbroker.
Okay.
It was very different. And I got out of college and I was still selling real estate. And I sat down at a real estate desk and I was like, I don't know about this, and then but I said, well, maybe, and in fact, actually, I still have a real estate license. I still do sell real estate, but I was like, maybe I want to do something else. So I went and interviewed to be a stockbroker, and I was going to start as an assistant and, whatever. And then I got a job offer to be a fly fishing guide, which I'd always wanted to do. So I had to call Merrill Lynch, say, hey, I really appreciate the opportunity, but I'm going to go be a fly fishing guide. 6 months later, we released Life of Rolling Stone, and I still technically am a fly fishing guide. I play music and I still sell real estate.
Hey, it's all about doing whatever you can, that like whatever makes you happy while making enough money to allow you to do what you're passionate about.
I'm mostly just in the transition phase in chapters. You know what I mean? Like I'm in the inner, like the end of chapter, whatever, trying to get to the next chapter. And, but it's been fun, man. I absolutely love it. I've loved it. I don't have any regrets either, going through anything. I think for the most part, at least I hope, that we've been making the right choices.
Oh yeah, dude. And even if you don't, even if like failing is important.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Like people who have massive success from the get-go, it's kind of hard for them. I mean, you see some guys in Nashville who like they just start releasing music and they blow up, and they just kind of go through some stuff. But failing is definitely important, and not having any regrets. Because if you're regretful, it makes you spiteful and just an unhappy person, and it kind of holds you back from the future. So I mean, I graduated college during COVID, and it cut my athletic career short. Of course, COVID came out of nowhere and changed a lot of our perspectives and what we were doing in our lives, and it was a hard time. I mean, I'm sure everybody had just a smidge of depression through it all, but through the hard times comes the greatest. I don't even know.
You got to be able to. I don't think you can. So like, I think the biggest thing to be an underdog, like if you're going to be an underdog, you got to only have one thing over everyone else, and that is more ambition.
Yep.
It's like ambition is something that can get you basically not anything, but it can make doors open faster than anything else can.
Oh yeah.
But I do think true ambition comes also from being in a place where it's like, I don't know if I'm going to get out of this.
Your back's against the wall.
Yeah. That's because you can only go up.
Yep.
So, and I think that's really like a ton of what's been happening here.
I saw this diagram. I forget what his name is. He's a TikToker, motivational speaker, all this stuff. And he drew a diagram of people's businesses or just whatever in life, and it was a U. It had a U shape to it. And so basically, he said you start off up here with a new idea, new ambition, all this stuff. You get going, you're grinding. Like it's not necessarily taken off yet. You might hit rock bottom. There's like this breaking point, and you're either going to quit and start something new, or you figure out how to get through it. And the people who figure out how to get through that rock bottom, that breaking point, are the ones who make it big, and the ones who make a bunch of money and all that stuff. So I mean, you can have all kinds of ideas, and you can be stuck in this rut. It's a rut, essentially, and you can keep going back around it. Like you hit the rut, and you're like, well, that didn't work. Let's do something new, or you can push through it. And so I think when it comes to the music business, if you don't see your music taking off, you put so much hard work and money into this thing that doesn't make a lot of money. And so if you don't see your streams or your sales going anywhere after you just put all your heart and soul to an album, I'm sure it can be super I guess depressing in a way, or make you feel dejected.
It makes you just want to do it again, though.
Yeah, that's good.
I mean,
keep going.
The good news is, like, our first album did better than I thought. But once it did better than I thought, I saw what we could do. I was like, okay, well then, the goal now, I got into this business. The reason why I love this business, you're right. I mean, it ain't for the money, that's for sure. But what it is for, what I absolutely love about it, is that there is no ceiling. And there's no ceiling on multiple levels. Like, there's no ceiling really on income. There's no ceiling on gratification. There's no ceiling on how many songs I can write, or when I want to release them, or how many albums I can do, or how many fans I can have. Like, the goal is limitless.
Oh, yeah. And that's what I admire so much about the industry and all this stuff. And that's what we kind of have in common. I mean, I'm an entrepreneur. I mean, I do graphic design for other small businesses to get by. I work at a restaurant for like 3 days a week so I can pay for my apartment, pay for this office, because I mean, Country Underdog, we don't make anything really. Right. I mean, if we are making money, it's through merchandise and artist page websites. We just got all of our advertising up on the blog and all that stuff, so maybe we'll start to see some money from that. But frankly, I don't care. It's a passion. Yeah. All of you artists are going through the same thing, and it's that same mindset of there's no limit to how big this can get. You're your own boss. Let's just put out stuff that we love and see how it does.
I couldn't agree more, man. And I'm starting to realize more and more too, like, the podcasting, like, people who have the pages and the podcasts, and like, so Country Underdog, basically your whole system, you're really not that different from an artist. Like, from being a singer-songwriter artist, you guys are just in the same realm. Like, we're all just trying to release content. We're all just trying to do something. Like, you succeeding benefits me, and me succeeding benefits you. It's like this big, it's this whole thing.
I've said that to other artists, stuff like that.
I have
me helping you, you help me, goes around.
Yeah. The thing that I have the biggest problem with right now with the industry is how so many artists are, like, singled out. Like, the only reason why the Highwaymen and outlaw country music and all that stuff works so well is because they were all separate people, and they all came together and started their own genre together because they were ousted by everyone else. So, like, everyone sees all these individual artists make it that are independent, and they think, oh yeah, I should be an independent artist, so I'm singular. That is so wrong. We need to all come together, especially people who are independent. All the underdogs need to have their own thing.
Yep.
And be in unison.
Yeah, for sure. And with me, it's just like my number one fault is also my greatest, like, like things. So like I try and do too much sometimes.
Right.
So
No,
so
I feel that.
like Country Underdog started out with like the first thing I did with Country Underdog like 2 years ago. I created a chart and like ranking like the music that was out right now. And then I was like, I really don't want to do this. I don't think that I should be ranking music. I think it should all be promoted. So I took that off after like 2 days, and then started blog and merchandise, and then as it's gone on, I've created artist pages that artists can pay for, but I've also given 100 away for free, stuff like that,
Right.
and podcasts and just all different kinds of things, and creating all these different tree branches uh, without giving them enough attention so that they can grow. So I've tried to trim some branches, the things that don't work, and focus on what does work while still kind of trying to do it all. Because I mean, I'm one man. I do have a team behind me somewhat, but they're all doing their own things, and it's
Right.
hard for me. It's hard for me to delegate. I'm trying to bring on interns right now around here, but it's just we all are together. I love what I've created. I've noticed artists talking back and forth to each other in the comments and all that stuff. I put on the Country Underdog Award show back in January, and that's something that we're going to do every year. This one was virtual.
Oh,
Next
sweet.
year's going to be in person.
Where is that going to be?
It's gonna be in Texas. It's gonna be in
Yeah.
Texas, but
I'm
we'll
coming
figure it out.
invited or not.
You'll be there. You'll be there. Just got to figure out if I'm going to do it inside or outside. Outside would be better because of COVID, but it is going to be January, so I don't know. But I got a lot of people behind me. It's just I have too much to do. You should see my to-do list. It is crazy.
Oh,
I have
I'm
it split up
sure.
into all the different projects that I have with myself, and then my clients. But dude, I want to talk a little bit about your song "Dying Breed." I've that one doesn't get as much attention, but I really gravitated to that, and it inspired me in an interesting way. I wanted to tell you about, and kind of inform you about. So, for a long time, I've wanted to create just a merchandise brand, separate from Country Underdog, just to see how that goes. And Dying Breed stood out to me, and between your song and Cody Hibbard has a song called Dying Breed. I was like, man, what these two songs are talking about are these people that have these jobs that are somewhat dying off in a way, maybe not.
Right.
The people that you don't see a whole lot of anymore, real good, hardworking people. And so I was like, yo, I want to start a merchandise company called Dying Breed Brand.
You should. I would love that. I would buy all of it. I love it, man. I'm all about it.
So I have already started on it. I think the logo, I'll try and show you the logo. I'm still working on it. But so if you have any ideas, like shoot them my way. I'll send you all that stuff. Like I think it really embodies a certain group of people, and I want to create like cool Western merch, and stuff like that. So this is like the first take on the logo.
Okay, yeah, I love it, dude. The Spurs are awesome.
So it's a D and a B, like boots. So I'm figuring it out. So yeah.
I think too, the other thing about that song is when I wrote it because I really felt like sometimes I am a dying breed. I'm a very old-fashioned dude. I'm an old soul. I just feel like, sometimes I just feel like I'm alone. But then I really realized after writing that song, and I play it now, and, I'm not. It's just you never see those people anymore in the spotlight and in all the stuff that we use now to socialize.
Right.
Like you don't see them very much on Instagram or TikTok or whatever because they're not on Instagram or TikTok.
You might
You
hear
know?
it in like music. You might hear stories
Yeah.
about them. Uh,
But they're everywhere, man.
but
And
yeah,
they're
for
great
sure.
people, you know. That's the thing. It just reminds me so much of just growing up. It just reminds me of the people growing up, you know, just and you're 23, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so we're like the last age
Yes.
generation before, you know, everything just kind of went crazy.
Dude, I was talking with some of my my coworkers at the restaurant that I work to work at today, and I grabbed some lunch or whatever, and I was like testing them on the movies that they know because some of the girls that work there, they're like 2002, 2003, and it's like they don't know like Benchwarmers, they don't know Step Brothers, they don't know the Titanic, they don't know, they haven't seen Forrest Gump.
Yeah,
Like what the
Jesus.
heck is going on? I was like, when did y'all first get a phone? Or like when did you first start using Snapchat? They were like, I think I was like 13. I was like, I think I got my first phone when I was 12. And it was one of those
Yeah.
little slide phones,
Yeah, it was a
and
total
I had a
piece.
razor and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So these kids nowadays have had like 5 extra years where they're just staring at social media than we had. So in that time we had to go out and play in the yard or
Right. Drink out of a garden hose, for Christ's sake.
drink out of a garden hose, watch movies out of a VCR, like stuff
Yep.
like that. So like
Oh, yeah.
we are the last people that kind of see that kind of stuff. This younger generation, they're not going to go. They're more than likely not going to go work in the oil fields and stuff like
Oh,
that.
yeah. No.
No.
I mean, there will be people out there that grew up old fashioned, and that's just, you know, that will never stop. That will be a thing.
Right. Similar to the kids who grow up in like a military family. Like
Right.
they grow up and they go to the military.
Right.
But
But it is becoming, yeah. I mean, dying breed, even though there's a ton of people out there like that, there's probably more people now. It is kind of a dying breed. I mean, the song still holds, you know, solace and value, and it still has a meaning, you know, holds truth.
well, most of the people I think who listen to country music and like your kind of country music and this red dirt and sound, uh indie Americana, the people who listen to that stuff are dying breeds in a way.
Right.
And so I mean, like that's why there's that website called Saving Country Music and stuff like that. Like country music in a way is a dying breed,
Yeah,
and it
I
has been
agree.
before, and we're just trying to push it out there. And but at the same time, the people who are going to listen to the stuff are more likely than not a dying breed. And if your music reaches people who haven't really listened to country before or Americana, all that kind of stuff, maybe it can turn them into a dying breed.
Right. No, I agree. I mean, I think that's the whole point, right? Is what we look at this right now, and um, like I said, there's so many things that are spaced out. And genre, like subgenring people, to me, I think is very criminal in a
Right.
way. I mean, I understand why genres exist,
Well,
but
I had this conversation a long time ago,
yeah, it's
or I
just like,
listened to a podcast about it. People have that argument for like there shouldn't be no genres, or there should be no genres, and then there's like, well, if there were no genres, everything would start to kind of sound the same over time.
right. So I
So
understand, like, but I think the biggest part that to me doesn't work is that the artist is not allowed to genre him or herself.
really,
If you look me up, I'm a folk artist. And I don't agree with that at all. So and I didn't put that in for my genres. So who genred me? I don't know, but it wasn't me. And so like when you start subgenring people, like I'd said one time that I was an outlaw musician or like an outlaw country singer. And they're like, no, you're not. I'm like, you think because my songs don't sound like Waylon and Willie that it makes me not outlaw? Like outlaw, first of all, just means outside of Nashville. That's the whole reason why it started.
Mhm.
That's the one thing. Then it picked up a sound, and now it has like every single song's in drop D, and it's like, I don't know. That's just their thing. But that's not necessarily what that is. And so if you start subgenring people to where they just get combined, that's how you end up getting artists so individualized and like not unified. Because you could just throw, so I just made up my own genre. I don't know if you've heard this or not, but like if you go to my Instagram page, it says outlaw and mountain country music musician. So I just call myself a mountain country artist at this point because I'm so tired of everyone telling me what I sing.
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with the types of instruments that are in your songs, and if you got some banjo in it, and it might be more folk soundy, but like when it comes to what you're talking about versus what it sounds like, you are right. There's really no reason to subgenre people.
Yeah, I mean, and it's I understand why you do it because I totally like. There's to me though, like everything is just like country is this very broad thing, and so it's just like this country music thing that, and I don't understand. I mean, obviously, the artist can't just say that he's like, you know what I mean? Like you got to be kind of true to what you're doing. But I do think that the artist should be allowed to say like, okay, yeah, I'm singing country music. Is that okay?
Right.
Like,
and even with me at Country Underdog, I mean, like I'll post about guys like Pakes on the Rooftops and Austin Mead, the more rock sounding guys.
right.
But they embody that same mentality that
It's
country artists
music,
do,
man.
and they're Texas-ish, that red dirt scene. They're independent, and they go town to town rocking it out, just building a fan base and stuff like that. Similar to
All a subgenre is an adjective to describe what kind of music that you're playing.
It's so it doesn't give you stuff that like you don't want to hear. Like if I'm listening to country, I don't want to hear Lil Wayne come on there. Like,
yeah. I mean, it's just an adjective to let people know what you play. Mm-hmm. So like, and there has to be some, but it just can't get so out of control now to where like, well, and I think it really started with like Childers. Americana music was country music or folk music forever. And then Tyler Childers kind of came in and they wouldn't let him in really like into that Nashville sound and whatever. And when he went to the Grammys, he was listed as Americana folk, which now you'd say, oh, of course he's Americana folk. But back then he was country.
Yeah.
You know, and now Americana folk is like its own thing, which is fine. But now we've just once again taken a whole group of musicians and put them on an island instead of just like allowing country music to just be a creative space. And this is kind of like what Dear Country Music is about, with the institutionalization of a creative space.
Right. And so now that I think about it, like if I go onto Spotify and I click the Americana playlist and all that stuff, I don't hear or listen to many of those people. It doesn't sound super like the stuff that I promote, like you guys and all that stuff.
Right.
It's its own thing now. They're on an island, and I think that them now, with just Americana being a thing, they don't have a ton of people pushing them, because they've been put into a different square.
Which they're probably like, oh, great, like now I just don't want to be genred. You know what I mean? It's like, let me just be in the country space. That's what I want to do. It's like, it's all kind of its thing. And now I'm griping, but that's okay. Like kind of struck a chord, but you know, that is one thing that I do have somewhat of a problem with in the industry. But then again, like, what are you going to do?
I don't even know how we got on that topic.
I guess we'll go back and have to look at the tape.
But shoot, we were talking about like dying breeds and like categorizing people. Let's see. Okay, nothing wants to work. But so what's probably your favorite song that you've put out so far? Like your personal favorite?
Yeah. Dying Breed's up there. I love Dying Breed. It's one of my favorite songs. Live for Rolling Stone, the song that I wrote, title track off my first album. That tune to me is where everything started for me. Even though that song I think is underplayed, to me that song is where like I love that song. I love playing that song live. I love it. So Live for Rolling Stone, Dying Breed, If I Were the Devil, I think is like, to me, If I Were the Devil, lyrically is probably the best lyrical song I've ever written, I'd have to say. Just personally. And then I really love the song Tip Jar,
Okay.
which is off of my If I Were the Devil album. I wrote
Yep.
that song for myself. It's super raw. It that was like all my demons for a year. I tried to write that song for a year, and it wrote itself in like 5 minutes when I finally like got it to paper. And I wrote it a week before we went down to record the album.
That's amazing because I mean, there's people who have songs in their notes on their phone for years, and it just clicks instantly. That's really interesting. What clicked about that song to you?
I wrote the so I had the melody line in my head forever, the like, because it's a very complex chord progression.
Mm-hmm.
It's like one of the hardest songs I've ever written as far as like the chord progression. It's fairly complex for a country song, I'd say. But it's just that like late at night when I wander through my dreams. Like I had that part in my head constantly. And I just
Mm-hmm.
didn't know what I wanted it to be about. And then I just went through like, a very stressful year with music and like trying to rebuild. And that song just poured out of me before we went to go record the album. And it was just one of those songs that I had to have one more song on the album. We had 17 songs that we were going to put on this album, or that we could have put
And you
on this
cut it down to
album.
10.
Yeah, and I added one before we went down there. Like I had 17 scratch tracks ready to go. And we're going to get down there, and then we were going to produce 10 of them. We were going to do an A-B side with this album. It was going to be like whatever. But yeah, like I wrote Tip Jar. I took one song out, and then all the songs finally just fit. Like it just made sense. Those 10 songs made sense, and we rolled them.
So Sturgill is a massive influence to you, and every one of his albums is like its own separate like work of art. Mm-hmm. And is that a similar I guess perspective you want to take on your albums, where each and every one of them is a little bit different in what it's trying to say? Or is it just a collection of songs that mean a lot to you?
Well, for me, we're finally to the point now where I can start like doing some fun stuff, like this Honky Tonk album that I'm writing. I'm super excited for it because it's going to be a lot different than like what we normally put out. And a huge reason why I'm doing it is because I want that little thing that says folk to change to country. That's a huge part. And I just want to like stick it and be like, I'm a country artist. Listen to this shit. So that's a huge part why I'm doing it. But also I've always loved honky tonk music. Like if I listen to anything on a day-to-day, it's like honky tonk music and bluegrass. I listen to a ton of those two things, a ton. And so, I mean, I was obviously super excited about Sturgill's bluegrass album when he released it. But the deal is with me now, it's like, okay, songs for me, you write the song, and then the song is its own breathing thing. Once the song is written, you have to play it enough to where it kind of becomes whatever it needs to be. Because it's way different when I play it alone and I write it on an acoustic and I bring it to the band and we add, then we get this awesome lead into it. And now we have the bass that's playing the rhythm section, and we have the keys and then I play a mandolin as well. Once we get everything all figured out, we go, holy shit, this is what the song needs to sound like. now it's become its own song. And so I think, to me, albums themselves will always be different from the thing previous that I put out, or whatever I plan to put out next, because every album is just like its own little ecosystem of songs that have their own story to tell. And songs, to me, I treat songs like, to me, I always say this, like, a song is not worth listening to if it doesn't have a soul. And that could be any genre. But if a song doesn't have a soul, I ain't going to listen to it. So if you give your songs a soul, they will make their own whatever. So I can't necessarily say, like, I'm trying to make every single album different. Am I going to have some fun with some really cool projects in the future? Yes. I can promise you that if you like what we put out before, you're really going to like what we got to come. But everything will have its own soul, and it will all be authentic, and it will be exactly what it needs to be.
Yeah, for sure. That's awesome. Yeah, because I mean, there's so many different moving parts when it comes to an album that it'd be impossible to keep it the same. So everything does become a little different. But I mean, so I know there are some people who look at an album, they come up with a name or the title track, and they want to write a story. Other people, it's just a collection of really great songs that all have a soul. So
yeah, I would
it's
love
either one main idea or a bunch of cool worlds.
I would love to be able to write a consecutive story album, but it could be a really cool project that I would be super open to doing. I just haven't written that yet. Like, to me, songs, I treat all my songs individually. And so, to write like a consecutive thing would be hard for them not to sound the same, because you're telling the same story all, like, for 10 songs or whatever. But every album does have its own, like, feel. So, like, Life of Rolling Stone is very, like, raw and acoustic. So the songs that are in that are from, like, times of me trying to figure out who I am. There's a lot of songs in there about breakups, and a lot of songs about girls, and a lot of songs about trying to figure out my music career, and songs about my childhood, and so on. And then If I Were the Devil is a maturity album. Those songs, all but one of those songs was written in the span between my first album and If I Were the Devil. And so those songs, like, when I wrote every single one of those songs, what it did for me was I said, okay, I was more mature. I had just gone through some tough shit. So I was on my way, trying to claw my way out of a hole. So the song has maturity, it has depth, it has the similar raw emotion, but in a totally different place in life. So, I mean, they all have, maybe it's not consecutive story, but, like, they're all written consecutively as far as, like, me coming out of things, like, deep up, like, it's just a constant trend.
It's good. And I think that's something that people really enjoy to listen to. They enjoy the struggle and stories about overcoming. I mean, I think that's why Morgan Wade has become so popular right now. I mean,
I really like her music.
Oh, me too. And this, I don't listen to a ton of female artists. I mean,
Right.
I try to. I listen to new stuff when it comes out, put it on the playlist and all that stuff. But when it comes to listening to songs over and over and over again from a person, like, it's really just been her lately. But, like, she writes these songs about addiction and overcoming and these horrible experiences. And I think the big draw with her is we know that she's overcome them. It's
right.
We just get to, like, go back to a place where she didn't know that if she was going to overcome these things, and listening to how she did it is, I think, the big draw when it comes to her. So
I agree.
So that's what makes it really cool, is that, so whenever you have an album and these songs, and there's a focal story about it, people really like to enjoy overcoming things. That's why people like the underdogs.
Yeah, no, I think, dude, I remember the first time you posted about us, I was so excited because I've been following your page on Instagram for quite some time. And when you posted us, I was actually sitting in my living room, and I'm pretty sure you posted us as
It was
like
a song of the day.
week or
Yeah,
song of the
something like
day. Yeah. And I looked at my girlfriend and I said, we just got posted by Country Underdog. And I freaked out.
that.
It was great. So I really do appreciate it, man. It's kind of come full circle now, but
Of course.
yeah, I really
That's
appreciate
good.
it.
I mean, there's way too many people to keep track of, and I really try to do it. I mean, I get 100 emails a week asking for
Oh, I'm
promotion.
sure.
I don't read 95% of them.
Yeah.
And
I mean, dude, there's a ton of stuff going on, and I get it. That's why I was so just like, because, I do reach out, try to do it every day and stuff, but there was like a few left on the checkbox where I was like, okay, and you were one of them. I was like, we still haven't gotten posted yet by them, but I was like, hopefully it'll come around. No DM, no nothing, just a tag. Oh, yes.
I mean, that's kind of my strategy. I do things for people most of the time that don't ask for it, and I don't ask anything of people in return. I don't ask people to do things for me typically, and I think people get that in a way. So whenever I have reached out to people, they respond, stuff like that. Like with our Country Underdog Award show, I reached out to Aaron Watson, seeing if he wanted to submit a song for as like the headliner and to be played at the end of the award show, and he was like, "Heck yeah, man!" And I was like,
so sick.
I was like, what the fuck? It worked. And
yeah, no, it's crazy. Sometimes like the reach out when it really hits home, and like because when I try to do my reach out, especially like earlier on, I was reaching out, spend 30 minutes a day just straight up DMing, reaching out, like just the most honest message I could possibly imagine to people about my story and stuff. And I do one or two like home run DMs, is what I call them, a day.
Okay.
Just like there's no chance that this guy's gonna, or this gal, or this guy, or this page, there's no way in hell that they're gonna DM me back. But it's worth taking the minute and a half to write them both.
For
I
sure.
do 2 of those a day, and when you get one of those to write you back, you're just like, oh, that worked.
Oh, yeah.
My first one, and this is now like, but my first one was I started with nothing. Like we had no promotion. This is when I started trying to promote the second album. I'd reached out to like a couple smaller pages, and then the one I reached out to was Ranch Jams. I don't know if you know Ranch Jams or not.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he got back to me, put me on the playlist, and that's where I was like, oh my God, this is like totally worth it. Like why not do this?
Mm.
And then you go from there, obviously. But
oh yeah, for sure. And I mean, shoot, with us, apparently, one of my buddies who helps us out, he was backstage at an Austin Mead concert in Corpus. He knows Austin a little bit, and he was backstage with him. And Austin was like, "Yo, y'all are doing a podcast now, aren't y'all?" He was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Yo, let me be on that. I'll fly. Contact my manager, and we'll fly y'all down to San Antonio here in a couple weeks, and we'll get you on a podcast with Co Wetzel." And I was like, okay. So we'll see if that happens. But I like that home run idea thing. I mean, I think that's something that I should start doing too. Reaching out to
well,
these.
it's worth it. Like if you do reach out,
sure.
like might as well.
Oh yeah, easy. But that's really cool. I like that. But no, Instagram's weird, man. I mean, we have 3,000 something followers on Instagram. We got 55,000 on TikTok. I don't know how many we have on Facebook.
Yeah, Facebook,
on Facebook.
It's hard to follow.
It's just automatically like linked into Facebook.
Right.
For the older people who follow stuff. And then there's TikTok. I mean, not Tinder.
Yeah.
We got a Country Underdog Tinder. I create I create pages for all of y'all, and people swipe right or left on y'all.
Whoever gets the most swipes wins the award show in January.
Yeah. We'll do that. Shoot, I'll just make an app for that. Like you go and swipe.
Yeah.
But no, I was talking about Twitter. I have a buddy. One of the things that I have delegated is our Twitter, and he's funny as hell. He posts on Twitter all the time, but we have like 300 on Twitter. Twitter and Instagram, their engagements are so far down from what they once were. Like Instagram's like 1.4% of the engagement that it once had at its peak. So like if you have a couple thousand followers and you're only getting 200 likes on posts, I mean, it's not necessarily your fault.
No. Yeah.
Whereas TikTok, you can have no followers and post your first video could be seen by millions of people.
Yeah. I think this is another thing. If you want to hear me gripe again, I have a gripe.
Come on.
Okay, so my thing about it is I'm also really tired of people like bitching about how they only have like, oh man, like I only got like 300 views on this video. And I'm like,
Yeah.
have you ever played in front of 300 people? Have you ever had 300 people watch you play a guitar and sing? Because that's pretty cool. And like, I guess and it's all relative, and I understand that.
That's true.
Everyone wants to hit the millions, and that's cool. And I understand that that's a goal. But if there's something that you don't like, you need to get to that million, you're going to have to get 300 views a lot of times, before you finally figure out what's going to get you to that million views. But also look at it this way. As an artist, if you post one video a day and you get 300 views and you start doing some math, that ain't all that bad.
Right. It's not bad at all. And I think it all comes back to we are trained for instant gratification now. Like, right. It's like, oh, I'll be happy once I get 1,000 followers. Oh, I'll be happy once I get 10,000 followers. And once you reach these milestones, you're never happy. You always want more.
Right.
And so looking at it the way that you just said, I mean, is really an interesting perspective that a lot of people don't think about.
The other, and I think that comes from now we can access data on per second. How many people are watching something per second or whatever, which is really not healthy for your psyche if you're trying to do something like that. You need to look at it monthly, if not 6 months, if not to a year, because that's when you can really see trend lines. And like, I've learned a ton about that just from like my team telling me to calm down, because I sometimes, can be like, oh, why is this that? But they're like, we don't even have enough data yet to really understand what's going on. So like don't watch it like a hawk, just post it and see if it goes well. If it goes well, then, ride the gravy train and have a good time, and watch the numbers in a 6 month to a year basis. And that way, I think that's a good way to, hold down that instant gratification.
True. And then there's the other thing is we see other people having success and doing all these cool things on social media, and there's that little bit of a jealousy factor. And but when it comes to it, people are really only posting like their highlight reel. So right. So what's actually happening isn't the full story. So like,
perceived reality. Yeah.
Like, oh, I follow this hot girl on Instagram. She's doing all these things. She has millions of followers and she's getting all these likes and all that stuff. But how much of that is real, and how much of that actually turns into money? Versus the pages with less followers that have a real product. Pages with less followers and a real product can make more money and get more engagement than just, I don't know.
No, I agree. I think so. What it comes down to me, I don't look at follower numbers. I don't look at like anything to be anything more than like a credit score. Mm-hmm. Like the more followers you have, the more credible you are if you're trying to pitch yourself to other people. But what matters to me, so that's like on the business end. Numbers matter on analytics. To me, what matters is fans. How many people would buy a ticket to go see me? That's what matters to me. How many people are blasting my song to go to prom? How many people are going to make a memory with one of my songs? And how many like lifelong fans have I made by the end of the year? And how many do I want to have by this time? Real people matter to me a lot more than numbers, because the numbers only matter to a couple people in this world, but the real people that are listening to my songs matter to me. So like, that's my perspective on it, I guess, as far as when it comes down to how I want to build my business.
Dying breed, man.
Exactly. Damn right.
Well, we're running out of time again. I like how we were talking about only doing this for like 30 minutes.
I know.
It's turned into an hour. So well, I guess we'll end it here. Thanks for coming on, Colby. It's been a pleasure talking to you. Hopefully we get to do this in person, man. You keep doing
Make it
what
a
you're
thing.
doing, being yourself, staying authentic, and hit me up anytime.
Yeah, no, dude, we'll talk soon. Thank you so much for having me on. Appreciate it.
All right. Peace, Colby.
See you later.
See ya.